That telephone. That dreadful, black telephone. Every time it rang, on the first day of the month at exactly 3 in the afternoon, I felt my heart stop cold in my chest. It was such an ordinary sound, a sound that meant connection and news for other people. But for me, for 12 long years, it was a funeral bell. It was the sound of a secret that was slowly, methodically, poisoning my life. I had grown to hate the object itself. It sat on a small wooden table in our hallway, a silent, dark witness to a lie that grew bigger every single month. By the 12th year, I was hearing that ring in my sleep. Hello. My name is Gloria, and I am 85 years old. I live in a quiet suburb just outside of Chicago, in the very same house where this story began. It is quieter now, of course. The walls are filled with the whispers of everything they watched, all the secrets they kept for decades. I am telling you this today because I have held it inside for too long. I am sharing something that changed my life forever, something that taught me that sometimes, to truly heal, you must first find the courage to look the truth right in the face, no matter how much it hurts. It was 1958. I was just 18 years old when I married Wayne. I was so young, so hopeful. I truly believed that love was the only ingredient we needed to build a perfect life together. Wayne was 8 years older than me, already 26, and he seemed so mature, so worldly. He was a successful salesman at a large, respected furniture store downtown. Our families had known each other for a little while, and everyone, absolutely everyone, said we were the perfect couple. We were married on a bright afternoon in June in a small church filled with our friends and family. I remember the scent of the flowers and the feeling of the lace veil against my skin as I walked down the aisle. My mother was crying happy tears, my father looked so proud, and I was certain that my fairy tale, the American dream I had always wanted, was just beginning. The first few months of our marriage were happy. Or at least I tell myself they were. Wayne was attentive. He would bring me small gifts, a box of chocolates, or a new record for the player. In the evenings, he would come home and tell me about his day while we ate the dinner I had spent all afternoon preparing. We rented a small, lovely house with a little yard. Nothing fancy, but to me, it was a palace. I spent my days making it a home. I sewed new curtains, I polished the wood floors, and I dreamed of the children who would one day fill the rooms with laughter. Then, slowly, things began to change. It was almost too small to notice at first. Wayne became more distant, more private about his work. I assumed it was normal. I told myself he was just tired, that the pressures of being the provider were settling in, that the routine of marriage was simply replacing the early passion. I tried so hard to believe that until I noticed something else, something strange, something that would become the terrifying, steady rhythm of our lives. It was October 1st of that same year, 1958. The telephone rang at exactly 3 in the afternoon. Wayne was home that day, which was unusual for him on a weekday. He told me he had to come back to get some paperwork he had forgotten. He rushed to the phone, almost leaping from his chair, as if he had been expecting that specific call. He turned his back to me while he spoke, lowering his voice to a whisper I could not understand. I couldn't hear the words, but I saw how his shoulders tensed up, how his knuckles turned white as he gripped the receiver. The conversation lasted less than a minute. When he hung up, he turned to me with an expression I had never seen on him before. It was a cold mix of anxiety and a strange, firm resolve. "I have to go out," he said, his voice flat. "There's an important client who wants to see some new models. It could be a very big sale." "Oh," I said, trying to be the helpful wife. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No," he said far too quickly. "No, it's better if I go alone. I know this client's taste. He's very particular." I watched him grab his jacket and check his wallet. There was something automatic about his movements, like he was following a script he already knew by heart. "When will you be back?" I asked, as he was already at the door. "I'm not sure. Don't wait up for me for dinner if I'm late." And just like that, he was gone. He left me standing in the hallway with a strange, twisting feeling in my stomach, a subtle wrongness that I just couldn't name. That night, he came home very late, well past 10 o'clock. He looked exhausted, and I could smell the faint, sharp scent of whiskey on his breath. When I asked him how the meeting with the particular client went, he just grunted that it went fine and immediately changed the subject. I tried to let it go. Business was business, and it wasn't my place to question him about every detail of his work. That's what I was told a good wife did. But then, the next month, on November 1st, at exactly 3 in the afternoon, the telephone rang again. And just like before, Wayne was home. It was another coincidence, one that only later would I realize was no coincidence at all. It was a plan. The same scene played out. The same hushed, tense conversation, the same excuse about a client, the same hurried departure. And it happened again on December 1st, and again on the 1st of January, in the new year. Every single first day of the new month, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that telephone call. Every time, Wayne made sure he was home. If he was running late from work, he would become agitated, looking at the clock every few seconds. I once saw him run up the front steps, nearly tripping, because he was almost late for the call. After 6 months of this, I couldn't ignore the pattern any longer. There was something ritualistic about it, something dark that Wayne was desperately trying to hide from me. I finally got up the courage to ask him directly, "Wayne, who is that who always calls you on the 1st of the month?" His face changed instantly. The warmth he sometimes had just vanished. His eyes went cold, and his jaw tightened. "That's business, Gloria. It is not something you need to concern yourself with." "But is it the same client? Why do they always call on the same day at the same time?" "Enough with these questions." His voice rose to a shout, making me jump back. He had never raised his voice to me like that before. "There are things you don't need to know. I am the one who provides for this family. I am the one who works. Your job is to trust me." I felt as if he had slapped me. Tears burned in my eyes, but I held them back. I refused to let him see me cry. In that single cold moment, I understood that there was an invisible line in our marriage, a border I was never, ever allowed to cross. From that day on, I never asked him about those calls again. But I started to watch. I listened. I paid attention to the details. I noticed that after every one of those business meetings on the 1st of the month, Wayne would come home quieter than usual. Sometimes he seemed deeply sad. Other times he was irritable, snapping at me for the smallest thing. And another pattern started to emerge, one that made me even more afraid. In the days right after those outings, we never had any money. Wayne would suddenly become extremely frugal. He would put off buying things we needed, tell me we had to tighten our belt this month. But his salary was steady. The furniture store was doing well. So where was that money going, every single month? In the meantime, our life went on. In 1960, our first son, Robert, was born. 2 years later, Susan arrived, and in 1965, our youngest, Mark, was born. The children brought so much joy into our home, and for long stretches of time, I could almost forget about that monthly ritual that continued to mark our lives. But it never, ever went away. In fact, with the children and the growing expenses of a family, those mysterious outings became even more of a problem. Because even though Wayne got raises at work, we always seemed to be living on the edge, always just scraping by. I remember one time, Susan was about 3 years old. She got terribly sick with a high fever. The doctor said it was a bad infection and gave me a prescription for an expensive new medicine. I had to ask Wayne for extra money to buy it. It was the second day of the month, the day right after one of his mysterious trips. "I can't," he said, staring at the newspaper, not even looking at me. I had some unexpected expenses yesterday. Expenses? I said, my voice shaking with disbelief. What expenses could possibly be more important than your daughter's health? You don't understand, Gloria. There are obligations. Obligations I have to meet. What obligations, Wayne? What could be more important than your own family? His face twisted in a mask of anger and something else. Was it shame? They are not things you can understand, he shouted. Then, seeing my shocked expression and little Robert and Susan watching us with wide, frightened eyes, he lowered his voice. I'll find the money. Just give me a few days. He did find it. He borrowed it from a neighbor, which was deeply humiliating for me. But that moment left me with even more questions and a growing, cold resentment. What secret could be so powerful that he would put his own child's health at risk for it? The years passed. 12 years. That monthly appointment became a part of our marriage. Like a piece of broken furniture, we just learned to walk around. I stopped asking questions, but I never stopped wondering. Who was calling? Where did Wayne go? And why was it all so important? I would lie awake at night, my mind racing. I imagined he had another family, other children somewhere. I imagined he had a terrible gambling debt, or that someone was blackmailing him. But I had no proof. I had nothing but my suspicions and that aching, hollow feeling of being shut out of my own life. Wayne wasn't a terrible husband, not in the ways people could see. He was there for the children's birthdays. He helped them with their homework. On Sundays, he would sometimes take us all to the lake for a picnic. There were days, even whole weeks, where we were almost happy. But that secret was always there, like a wall of ice between us. A wall that I could only feel, but that became solid and real once a month, every time that phone rang. 12 years I lived with this. I raised my children, I kept the house clean. I smiled at family dinners and Christmas parties. I pretended that everything was normal, that my marriage was just like everyone else's. But inside, I was always carrying that question, that doubt that was slowly eating away at the trust and the love I once had. And then, in 1970, everything shattered. My mother became very ill. She had a heart condition that had worsened suddenly, and the doctors said she needed an expensive, complicated surgery. It was one of those new procedures that insurance barely covered. When the doctor told me how much it would cost, I felt the blood drain from my face. It was a sum I knew we didn't have. I'll talk to Wayne, I told my mother, trying to sound hopeful as I held her hand in the hospital room. We'll find a way. You'll get the surgery. But when I spoke to Wayne that night, his answer ripped away my last piece of hope. We can't afford it, Gloria, he said, avoiding my eyes. I'm sorry about your mother. I truly am. But we just don't have that kind of money. How is that possible? I pleaded, my voice breaking. The store is doing well. You said we had savings. It's not that simple, he cut me off, his voice hard. There are expenses. Expenses you don't know anything about. In that moment, something inside me finally broke. 12 years of unanswered questions, 12 years of half-truths and cold silences, 12 years of money vanishing into a black hole. It all exploded in a wave of grief and rage. What expenses, Wayne? I cried, the words tearing out of me. Are they the expenses from the first of the month? The ones you run off to after that secret phone call? For 12 years I have wondered. For 12 years I have lived with this shadow, accepting your excuses. My mother is dying, and you're talking to me about expenses I don't know about? His face went pale. For a second, just a split second, I thought he was finally going to tell me the truth. But then, he just shook his head. I can't talk about it. It's better for you if you don't know. Better for who? I screamed, the tears finally running down my face. Better for you? Because it is not better for me, Wayne. It is not better to live in the dark, wondering every single day if my entire life is a lie. He stood up abruptly. I have to go back to the store. I have paperwork to finish. It was his old escape, his shield. Whenever things got too real, too close, he ran to his work, leaving me alone with my questions and my fear. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I thought about my mother, about her fading in that hospital bed, trying to be brave for me. I thought about my children, sleeping peacefully in their rooms, completely unaware of the canyon that was splitting our family apart. And I thought about that phone, that ritual that had controlled our lives for more than a decade. The next morning, Wayne left early. It was the 1st of the month, but he wasn't going to be home at 3. He told me he had a critical, all-day meeting with a new supplier. "I'll be home as soon as I can," he said, but I noticed his hands were shaking. I'll have to miss the call today. I'll deal with it later." He seemed agitated, upset about breaking his perfect 12-year routine. But that day, fate had a different plan. At 2:30 in the afternoon, the phone rang. I answered it, thinking it was the hospital. But it was Wayne. "Gloria, thank God," he said, his voice tight with panic. "I'm stuck. I'm completely stuck out on the highway. There's been a terrible accident, and the police have everything blocked. I'm not going to make it home by 3. I could hear the raw terror in his voice. "Gloria, listen to me. You have to listen to me very carefully. When the phone rings at 3, you cannot answer it. Do you understand me? Let it ring. Let it ring until it stops. Whatever you do not answer that phone." "But why, Wayne? Who is it? Who are you so afraid of?" "Please, Gloria, just do this for me. I'm begging you. Do not answer it." And in that moment, with my mother's words from the hospital echoing in my ears, with 12 years of financial sacrifices and unexplained poverty crushing me with his desperate, terrified plea, something inside me snapped. A cold, hard determination settled over me. "All right, Wayne," I said, my voice suddenly calm, a calm that didn't feel like my own. "I won't answer it." I hung up the phone and looked at the clock on the wall. 25 minutes until 3. 25 minutes to decide if I would remain in the dark for the rest of my life, or if I would finally, after 12 years, turn on the light. The minutes ticked by, one by one. The silence in the house was deafening. The children were at school. I was completely alone with my fear and my resolve. At 3 o'clock, on the dot, the telephone began to ring. The sound shattered the silence, making me jump. I stared at the black machine, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would break through my ribs. 1 ring, 2 rings. My husband's desperate voice. "Do not answer it." 3 rings. My mother's tired face in the hospital. The medicine Susan couldn't have. The 12 years of lies. With a hand that was shaking so hard I could barely control it, I walked to the table. On the 4th ring, I lifted the heavy receiver. "Hello?" I said, my voice barely a whisper. There was a pause on the other end. Then a woman's voice, very old and very frail, spoke. "Hello? Wayne? Is that you?" My heart stopped. A woman. An old woman who knew my husband's name. "No," I said, my throat tightening. "This isn't Wayne. This is his wife, Gloria." Another silence, longer this time, filled with confusion. "His wife," the voice crackled. "But he never mentioned having a wife." The words hit me like a physical blow. 12 years of marriage, 3 children, and this person, this secret, didn't even know I existed. "I'm sorry," I said, gripping the phone. "But who are you?" "I am Mrs. Miller," the woman answered. "Wayne. He comes to see me every month. We have an arrangement." An arrangement. The word echoed in the empty hallway. "What kind of arrangement?" I whispered. The woman hesitated. "Perhaps you should speak to your husband. I don't know if I should be—" "Please," I interrupted, the desperation breaking through. "My mother is very sick. She needs an operation, and my husband says we have no money. But every month, on this day, he gets this call, and he leaves, and our money is gone. every month, for 12 years. I have to know what is happening." There was a long, deep sigh on the other end of the line. "I see," the woman said finally. "Perhaps it is time. Perhaps the truth needs to come out. Wayne comes here to pay expenses. He has been doing it since 1958. "What expenses?" I asked, feeling dizzy. "For my daughter Diane, and for her son." The room started to spin. I put a hand against the wall to keep from falling. "Her son? What son?" "His son, dear," the woman said, her voice heavy with sorrow. "The son he had with my daughter, Diane, right before he disappeared from her life. The child was born with serious medical problems. He needs constant care." I couldn't, gasping for breath, I leaned against the wall. A son. Wayne had another son. A son born before our marriage. A son he had never, ever mentioned. Where are you?" I managed to get the words out. "We are at a nursing care facility," she said, and she gave me an address on the other side of the city. "My Diane. She passed away 3 years ago, but the boy and I are still here. Wayne pays for our care. He pays every month, but he never visits. He has never, not once, even seen his own son." My hand was shaking so badly I could barely write the address down on the notepad by the phone. "I'm coming," I said, not even thinking. "I'm coming over, right now." "Ma'am, I don't know if—" The woman started, but I had already hung up the phone. I dropped the receiver back into its cradle with a crash. My body was shaking, but my mind was suddenly terribly clear. A son. A sick son. A woman named Diane. An arrangement. The words hammered at me. I stumbled to the bathroom, my stomach heaving, and I was sick. I clung to the cold porcelain, gasping for air as 12 years of my life replayed in my mind, but this time they were twisted into a new, hideous shape. Every lie, every excuse, every time Wayne had snapped at me for asking about money, every time he had looked at the clock on the 1st of the month, his face tight with that strange, anxious energy. It wasn't business, it wasn't obligations. It was this. It was Diane. It was David. I thought of my own children. I thought of the time Susan had been so sick, and he had made me wait 2 days, humiliated, to borrow money from our neighbor for her medicine. He hadn't been broke. He had just given his money away. He had given our money, our children's money, to this secret. He had chosen his secret over his own daughter's health. The sickness rose in me again, but there was nothing left to come up. It was just a cold, dry rage. He had never mentioned a wife. 12 years, and this woman, this Mrs. Miller, didn't even know I existed. I wasn't just the wife he lied to. I was the wife he had erased. I stood up, my legs unsteady, and splashed cold water on my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't recognize the person looking back. The young, naive girl I had been was gone, and in her place was a stranger, an angry woman whose entire life had just been revealed as a fraud. I had to go. I had to see. I had to know. I ran to the kitchen and looked at the clock. The children would be getting out of school in an hour. I picked up the phone, the same phone that had delivered the news, and my hand was still shaking as I dialed my neighbor's number. Mrs. Peterson. She was a kind woman, always willing to help. She answered on the second ring. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Mrs. Peterson, it's Gloria. I have an emergency. My mother," I choked on the lie. "It's my mother. I have to get to the hospital. Could you possibly pick up Robert, Susan, and Mark from school and keep them just for a few hours? I don't know when I'll be back." Her voice was full of concern. "Oh dear, of course. Don't you worry about a thing. You go be with your mother. I'll get the children. I'll feed them dinner. You just take all the time you need." I thanked her, the words feeling like ash in my mouth. Another lie, built on top of Wayne's mountain of lies. I grabbed my purse and my coat. I didn't bother to change. I just left. I walked to the bus stop at the end of our street, my mind numb. The address Mrs. Miller had given me was on the far south side of the city, a place I had rarely ever been. It would take over an hour to get there. The bus ride was a special kind of torture. With every stop, every lurch of the engine, my mind turned the facts over and over. A son, born before our marriage. This meant that when Wayne was courting me, when he was bringing me flowers and telling me I was the only one he had ever loved, he was lying. He was running from a pregnant girl, a 17-year-old girl. He hadn't married me because he loved me. He had married me because it was an escape. I was his alibi. I was the good girl he used to build a new life, a respectable life, a life that would cover the tracks of the old one. And for 12 years, he had been paying for it. The money. My God, the money. All those times we couldn't afford things. The cheap vacations we took, driving instead of flying. The second-hand clothes I bought for the children. The furniture I wanted to replace. The same furniture Wayne himself sold at his store, that he told me we couldn't have. It was all going to them. To pay for his silence. I felt a sudden, sharp hatred for him that scared me. It was so strong, so pure. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a theft. He had stolen my youth. He had stolen my trust. And he had stolen from my children. I finally got off the bus in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. The streets were gray, the buildings older. I followed the address I had written down, my hands trembling. It led me to a large, clean brick building. A small sign out front read, St. Jude's Care Home. It looked respectable, quiet. I walked inside. The air smelled of floor polish and cooked vegetables, the universal smell of institutions. A woman sat behind a front desk. I cleared my throat. "I'm here to see Mrs. Miller," I said. The woman looked up from her paperwork. "And you are?" "I'm a friend, Gloria." She nodded, apparently satisfied. "Third floor, room 312. My heart was beating so hard, I thought it might burst. I walked to the elevator, my steps feeling heavy as if I were walking underwater. The elevator opened, and I walked down the quiet, carpeted hallway. Every door was closed. I could hear the faint sound of a television from one room, a low cough from another. Room 312. The door was partly open. I raised my hand to knock, but I hesitated. What was I doing here? What was I going to say? What did I even want? Before I could decide, I heard the same frail voice from the phone. "Come in?" I pushed the door open slowly and stepped inside. The room was small, but clean and bright, with a large window that looked out over a small garden. An elderly woman was sitting in a comfortable-looking armchair by the window. She was small and looked very tired, but she held herself with a quiet dignity. She looked at me, and her eyes, though clouded with age, were sharp. She knew instantly. "You're Gloria," she said. It wasn't a question. "You're his wife." "Yes," I whispered, my voice sounding strange in the small room. I stood by the door, not knowing what to do, not knowing where to sit. "Please," she said, gesturing to a simple wooden chair opposite her. "Sit down. I suppose I have been expecting you for 12 years. I sat on the edge of the chair, my purse clutched in my lap. "Your daughter," I started, not knowing how to ask. "Diane." Mrs. Miller looked out the window for a moment, as if gathering painful memories. "My Diane," she said, her voice soft. She was only 17 when she met him. It was 1957. He was older, of course, 25. He worked at that big furniture store downtown. He was so charming. You know how charming he can be. I just nodded, my throat tight. I knew. "Diane was so young," she continued. "She was smart, but she was naive. She fell for him, hard. They started seeing each other in secret. Her father, my husband. He was a very strict man. He would never have approved. Wayne told her he loved her. He promised her the world. She paused, and a single tear traced a line down her cheek. She wiped it away with an impatient gesture. When Diane found out she was pregnant, she was terrified. Not of the baby, no. She was happy about the baby, but she was terrified of her father. Terrified of what Wayne would do. But he promised her. He told her he would marry her. He said they would raise the child together. He just needed a little time, he said. A little time to get his finances in order. My stomach twisted. That was the exact time. The exact time he had been meeting my family. The exact time he had been asking me out on dates. While he was promising to marry a pregnant 17-year-old, he was courting me. And then, Mrs. Miller said, her voice becoming brittle, he vanished, just disappeared. He stopped calling her. He didn't show up for their meetings. It was as if he had dropped off the face of the earth. Diane was destroyed. She was desperate. Finally, she had to tell us. My husband. He was furious. It was a terrible, terrible time. She closed her eyes for a moment. The shame. You cannot imagine the shame back then. We tried to find him, but he had moved. He had a new life. With me, I said. He had found me. Yes, she said, looking at me with a sadness that had no anger in it, only pity. With you. Diane had the baby, a little boy, David. He was born early, and he was born sick. The doctors said his heart was weak, and that he was not like other children. That his mind would not develop in the same way. David, his name was David. My husband had a son named David. How did you find him again? How did the arrangement start? My husband found him, she said, her voice hardening. It was just a few months later, right before October of that same year. David was just a baby, not even a year old. My husband saw Wayne by chance at the furniture store looking happy, looking successful. He followed him home. He found him with you. A new wife, a new perfect life. I flinched. My husband confronted him. He told him he had a son. He told him David needed expensive medical care, that Diane was struggling to cope. And do you know what your husband did? I shook my head, though I was afraid of the answer. He denied it. He said it wasn't his. He said Diane could have been with anyone. He tried to slander my daughter, who had done nothing but love him. The cruelty of it, the cowardice, it took my breath away. My husband was a strong man. He told Wayne he would not stand for it. He threatened to go to the police. He threatened to come to your house, Gloria, and tell you everything. To tell his new, respectable wife what kind of man she had really married. In those days, abandoning a pregnant girl, it was a scandal that could ruin a man. It could ruin his career. And there it was, the obligation. It wasn't love. It wasn't guilt. It was fear. Wayne panicked, Mrs. Miller continued. He offered my husband money. He said he would pay for everything, David's medical care, his support, everything, on one condition. That Diane never contact him, that we never tell anyone, that his new life would remain untouched. And the phone call, I whispered. The call, every month. That was my husband's idea. He told Wayne that he would not let him just mail a check and forget. He insisted on the call, the first of every month at 3 o'clock, a reminder. A business appointment that he could never, ever miss. It was his punishment, a way to make sure he never forgot what he had done. My husband died 5 years ago, so I continued the calls. Wayne would come here, to this facility, drop off an envelope of cash, and leave. He never stayed. He never asked a single question about David. Her voice finally broke. He has never, not once in all these years, laid eyes on his own son. We sat in silence for a long time. The weight of his betrayal, his cold-hearted cruelty, filled the small room. He wasn't just a man who had made a mistake. He was a monster. 3 years ago, Mrs. Miller said, her voice a low murmur, my Diane got sick. Cancer. It was fast. By the time they found it, it was too late. She made me promise. She made me promise I would always take care of her David. I was already old, and I couldn't manage him on my own, not with his needs. So we moved here. It's a good place. They are kind to him, and Wayne, he continued to pay. The arrangement didn't change. Something in her voice told me there was more. This wasn't just a story about the past. This was about today. That phone call, I said, the one I answered, it wasn't just about the regular payment, was it? Mrs. Miller looked at me, and her eyes were filled with a new, fresh pain. No, she said, it wasn't. David is getting worse. His heart, the one that was always weak, it's failing. The doctors here say he needs an operation, a very expensive, very specialized operation. They say without it, they say he might not live much longer. My own mother, the surgery, Wayne saying we had no money, it all clicked into place. You told him, I said. You told Wayne about the operation. Yes, I told him 2 months ago. I told him the cost. It's a terrible amount of money. And what did he say? Mrs. Miller looked down at her hands, folded in her lap. He said he would see what he could do, that he would think about it. But he hasn't done anything, and David is running out of time. I felt suddenly, overwhelmingly tired, as if I had been carrying this secret myself for 12 years. This entire story, this whole other life. It was too much. And then I felt a sudden, strange impulse. It was a feeling so strong it surprised me. After all the anger, all the disgust I felt for Wayne, I had to see him. I want to see David, I said, the words coming out before I had even truly formed the thought. Mrs. Miller looked up at me, shocked. You do? But why? After everything I've told you, he is the reason. I know what he is, I said, standing up. He is the reason my life is a lie. But he is also a boy who is sick, a boy his father abandoned, and he is my children's brother. The word felt foreign, shocking, but it was true. Robert, Susan, and Mark had a brother they had never met. He has lived in the shadows of my family his whole life, like a ghost in our house. He deserves to be seen. I need to see him. Mrs. Miller studied my face for a long moment. I think she was trying to see if I was angry or if I meant to cause harm. She must have seen something else. She nodded slowly. All right, she said, pushing herself up from the chair with a groan. Come with me. He's just down the hall. He'll be in the activities room this time of day. He loves trains. She took a walker from beside her chair and began to move slowly toward the door. I followed her, my heart pounding a new, strange rhythm. We walked down the quiet hallway, the only sound the soft shuffle of her slippers on the carpet. She stopped in front of a door that was painted a cheerful yellow. This is his room, she said. He likes to keep his drawings here. He's very good, very precise. She pushed the door open. The room was small, like hers, but it was covered in drawings. Dozens of them, all taped to the walls. Drawings of trains, big engines, small cars, all drawn with a surprising, careful detail. And sitting on the floor, his back to us, was a boy, or a young man. He was humming to himself as he worked on a new drawing. David, Mrs. Miller said softly. Honey, there's someone here, someone I'd like you to meet. He stopped humming and slowly, carefully, turned around. He turned. My breath caught in my throat. It was like looking at a ghost. He was a boy, perhaps 12 or 13, but there was a sweet, open innocence to his expression that you would see in a much younger child. He smiled, a simple, uncomplicated smile. But what stopped my heart, what made me grip the door frame for support, was his face. Without a single, specific feature to point to, I knew. It was like looking at a reflection of my own children. I saw my son Robert. I saw Wayne. It was unmistakable. This boy, this secret, was my husband's son. "Hello," he said, his voice clear and light. "I'm David. Do you like trains? I'm drawing the new streamliner. It's very fast." He held up the drawing he had been working on. And just as Mrs. Miller had said, it was remarkable. It was drawn with a child's crayons, but with the precision of an architect. Every line was perfect, every detail correct. "David," Mrs. Miller said gently, "this is Mrs. Gloria. She's a friend. She wanted to see your drawings." "Oh, good," he said, his face lighting up. He scrambled to his feet and came over to me, holding the drawing out with pure, uncomplicated pride. "See? I drew the engine, and all the passenger cars, and the dining car is right here. Grandma says I'm very good at it. She says one day I could be an engineer." I tried to speak, but my throat was closed. I just nodded, taking the drawing from him. My hand was shaking against his. It's beautiful, David," I finally managed to say. "You are very talented." "Thank you," he said, beaming. He then pointed to the walls. "I've drawn all of them. The freight trains are my favorite. They're strong. They carry important things all over the country." He began to walk me around the small room, pointing to each drawing, explaining in careful detail what kind of engine it was, where it went, what it carried. He was completely absorbed in his world, a world that was safe and orderly and made of strong engines and clear destinations. He had no idea who I was. He had no idea that I was the wife of the man who had left him, the mother of the children who had the life he should have had. I looked at this boy, this innocent, gentle soul, and the rage I felt for Wayne became something new, something deeper and more terrible. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was disgust. This was the obligation. This was the expense that kept my own children in second-hand clothes. This living, breathing boy who just wanted to draw his trains. How could any man, how could any human being abandon this? How could he know this child existed and not just once want to see him? How could he pay for his silence but refuse to pay for his life? I felt Mrs. Miller's hand on my arm. "David, honey, Mrs. Gloria has to go now. She has to get home." David's face fell for a moment, his disappointment open and clear. "Oh, will you come back? You can see my new drawing when it's finished." I looked into his eyes that were so trusting and so unaware, and I felt my own eyes burn with tears. "Yes, David," I said, my voice thick. I'll come back." "Good," he said, and he gave me that same bright, simple smile. "Goodbye, Mrs. Gloria." I turned and walked out of the room, Mrs. Miller following me slowly. When we were back in the hallway, I had to lean against the wall. My legs felt weak. "Now you see," Mrs. Miller said, her voice low and heavy. "He is a good boy. He doesn't understand the world the way we do, but he is good, and he is all I have left of my Diane." I nodded, unable to speak. "Gloria," she said, and her voice was suddenly urgent. She gripped my arm. "What I told you, about his heart. It's true. He's getting weaker. I see it every day. He gets tired so easily. The doctor said we must do the operation soon. 2 months ago, they said that." "I know," I whispered. "Wayne, he won't do it." "He has to," she said, and now I could hear the desperation she had been holding back. "And there is something else I have not told you, something I didn't say on the phone." I looked at her, a new dread creeping into me. What else could there be? It's not just David who is sick, she said, her eyes looking past me down the long, empty corridor. The doctors, they found something in me a few weeks ago. Cancer. The same thing that took my Diane. Oh no, I breathed. It's very advanced, she said, her voice flat, as if she were talking about the weather. They told me I have perhaps a few months, maybe less. I am not afraid to go. I will see my Diane again. But Gloria... She turned to face me, and her small, frail hands gripped my coat. When I am gone, who will be here for him? Who will protect him? Your husband, he pays because I call him. Because I am the last witness. When I am dead, who will make him pay? Who will even make sure David is safe? He will be all alone in the world. An institution will take him, and he will be just a number. He will be forgotten. The new bombshell landed on me, crushing the last bit of air from my lungs. This wasn't just about a surgery. This wasn't just about money. This was about a life, a whole, innocent life that was about to be left completely abandoned. Have you ever had a moment like that? A moment where you realize that a choice you make right then and there will change everything, not just for you, but for people you don't even know? My anger at Wayne, my own grief, my worry for my mother. It all swirled together, and in the middle of it was this one, clear, terrible fact. If I did nothing, this boy would be lost. I will talk to him, I said, my voice sounding stronger than I felt. I am going home now, and I will make him understand. This ends tonight. Mrs. Miller looked at me, her eyes searching my face. She seemed to find something there. She let go of my coat and nodded, a gesture of profound, bone-deep weariness. Be careful, dear, she whispered. A man who builds his life on a lie, he will do anything to protect it. I left the care home. The sun was setting, and the bus ride home was dark. The city lights blurred past the window, but I didn't see them. I saw David's face. I saw his drawings. I saw Mrs. Miller, a woman who was dying, her only fear being for the boy her daughter left behind. The numbness I had felt earlier was gone. It was replaced by something else, a cold, hard certainty. My life, the one I had known for 12 years, was over. It had been a sham, a play that Wayne had directed, and I had been an unknowing actor. Well, now I knew. The play was over. I thought of my own mother, lying in her hospital bed, waiting for a surgery we couldn't afford. 2 people, an old woman and a young boy, both needed to be saved. And my husband, my partner, the man who was supposed to protect me, was the one standing in the way of both of them. When I got to my street, I saw the lights on in my house. The curtains were drawn, and for a second it looked so normal, so peaceful. It looked like the home of a happy family. I felt sick again. I walked in. Mrs. Peterson was at the kitchen table, helping Susan with her homework. Robert and Mark were playing a game on the floor. The smell of the dinner she had made for them hung in the air. This scene of domestic peace felt like a betrayal. Gloria, Mrs. Peterson said, jumping up, her face full of worry. You're back. My goodness, you look pale as a sheet. How is your mother? Is everything all right? I couldn't form the lie again. I just shook my head. Thank you so much for this, Mrs. Peterson. I don't know what I would have done. Oh, it's no trouble at all, dear. You just sit down. The children are all fed and happy. She gathered her things, her eyes never leaving my face. Are you sure you're all right, Gloria? I will be, I said. Thank you. She left, casting one last worried look over her shoulder. The children all ran to me, hugging me. How is Grandma? Robert, my oldest, asked. She's resting, I said, the lie feeling like gravel in my mouth. Go on, all of you. Go to your rooms and finish your homework. I need to wait for your father. They could tell something was wrong. My voice was not my voice. But they obeyed, filing out of the room, leaving me alone in the sudden, heavy silence. I didn't turn on any more lights. I walked into the living room and sat in the dark, in Wayne's favorite armchair, and I waited. I don't know how long I sat there. An hour, maybe 2. I just sat, motionless, as the cold resolve hardened inside me. Finally, I heard the sound. The key in the front door. Wayne came in, sighing, dropping his briefcase by the door. "Gloria," he called out, his voice annoyed. "You're home? Why is it so dark in here? It's like a tomb." He flicked on the hallway light. "I tried calling you at your mother's, but the hospital said you hadn't been there at all. And I tried calling the supplier back, but the line was busy all afternoon. Did the phone ring? At 3? He was still lying. Even now. He was standing right there, his face a mask of casual annoyance, trying to manage his secret, trying to see what I knew. I stood up from the armchair. He jumped, startled, not having seen me in the shadows. "Gloria, what on earth? You scared me to death." "What's wrong with you? Why are you sitting in the dark?" I stepped forward, into the edge of the light coming from the hallway. He could see my face now, and he must have seen something there, because his own face changed. The annoyance vanished, replaced by a sudden cold fear. "Gloria? What is it? What's wrong?" "I went out today, Wayne," I said. My voice was low, and it didn't shake. "After you called." "Out? Where? I told you I was trying to reach you." "Did you go to the hospital? How is your mother?" "No," I said, taking another step toward him. "I didn't go to the hospital." "Then where? Where did you go?" "I went to St. Jude's Care Home, Wayne." I watched the color drain from his face. He actually stumbled back, his hand grabbing the wall for balance. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "I met Mrs. Miller," I said, my voice like ice, each word a hammer blow. "She told me everything. About Diane. About the arrangement." He was shaking his head, a desperate, silent plea. "And then, Wayne," I said, stopping just a few feet from him, "I met David." Wayne stared at me. The name just hung in the air between us. David. It was a name that meant nothing to me an hour ago, and now it meant everything. He didn't speak. He just made a sound, a low, strangled noise, as if I had punched him in the stomach. He staggered back, his hand fumbling for the light switch on the wall, and flicked it on. The sudden harsh light of the living room flooded the space, exposing us both. His face was a mask of pure, primal terror. It was not the face of a man caught in a lie. It was the face of a man whose entire world was ending. "Gloria." "No," he whispered. He shook his head, his eyes wide and unblinking. Please, whatever she told you." "She told me the truth," I said. My voice was still quiet, but it was heavy. It felt like it was filling the room. "She told me about Diane. A 17-year-old girl, Wayne, a child." "It was before you," he gasped, the words tumbling out. It was a mistake, a long time ago. It has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with us." "Nothing to do with us?" I laughed. It was a terrible sound, dry and sharp. "It has everything to do with us." "Was it before me, Wayne? Or was it during me? Were you taking me to the movies while she was at home, pregnant and terrified? Were you buying me flowers with the money you should have been saving for your child? Were you standing at the altar, promising to love and honor me while you were actively running, hiding from her?" He couldn't answer. He just stared at me, his whole body shaking. The silence was his confession. "And then you erased her," I went on, the words coming faster now, 12 years of poison flooding out of me. "And you erased him. You denied he was even yours. You slandered that poor girl. And then, when her father threatened to expose you, you started to pay. You bought their silence." I was protecting us, he finally shouted, his voice cracking. I was protecting you. I was protecting this family. If that had come out, I would have lost my job. We would have been ruined. I did it. I did it for you. Do not, I said, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous whisper. Do not you dare say you did this for me. You did this for you. You did this for your reputation. You did this because you are a coward. You built this entire family, this entire life, on a foundation of lies. This house is a lie. Our marriage is a lie. You didn't protect me, Wayne. You used me. I was your shield. I was the good, simple wife you could hide behind. I saw the truth of that hit him. He leaned against the wall as if his legs could no longer hold him. 12 years, I said, walking closer to him. 12 years that phone rang. 12 years I watched you turn into a different person on the first of every month. I thought, God, I thought you had a gambling problem. I thought you were being blackmailed. I thought you had another lover. I even thought I was going crazy. I thought I was a bad wife, a suspicious, nagging woman, because I couldn't just trust my husband like I was supposed to. You let me believe that. You let me live in that fear, in that self-doubt, for more than a decade. Gloria, please, we can talk about this in the morning. Let's not fight, he pleaded. Fight? I said. This isn't a fight. This is a reckoning. And the money, Wayne, the money, all of it. His face went ashen. You know, I said, my mind racing, pulling up all the old tiny wounds that suddenly made sense. I remember Robert needed new winter boots. He was 8. His toes were pushing through the old ones. And you told me, we have to tighten our belt this month, Gloria. And I believed you. I took him to the thrift store. I bought him used boots. I was pacing now, the anger making me move. And the roof. It's been leaking over the kitchen for 3 years. And every time I mention it, it's not a good time. It's next year, for sure. And Susan, my God, Susan. His head snapped up at her name. I will never forget this, Wayne, as long as I live. Our daughter was sick. She had that terrible fever, and the doctor gave me the prescription. And you stood right there in that kitchen, and you told me you didn't have the money. You told me you had unexpected expenses. He was your expense. You made me, your wife, go to Mrs. Peterson, our neighbor, and beg for $20 to buy medicine for our child. You let your own daughter suffer. You humiliated me because you were too busy paying to cover up your disgusting secret. It wasn't like that, he sobbed. I didn't have a choice. You don't understand the pressure. I understand, I screamed, my voice finally breaking free. I understand perfectly. You had a choice. You had a choice 17 years ago when you chose to abandon a pregnant girl. You had a choice 12 years ago when you chose to lie to me instead of telling me the truth. And you had a choice every single month when you chose to give our family's money to your past instead of investing it in our future. You chose to let our children go without so that you could feel safe. He stammered, sliding down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, a crumpled, pathetic mess. The money. Gloria, it's worse than you think. I stopped pacing. I looked down at him. What do you mean? I don't have it, he whispered, his face in his hands. I don't have any money, at all. What are you talking about? The store. Your job. The store isn't doing well, he said, his voice muffled by his hands. It hasn't been for years. The payments, they were so much. At first I could handle it. But then, as the children got older, our own expenses went up. But her father, he wouldn't let me miss a payment. Not one. He looked up at me, his eyes red and desperate. I started borrowing, Gloria, from the bank at first, then from other people. Loans, things I shouldn't have. I'm in debt. We are in terrible, terrible debt. The room was silent. I could hear the ticking of the clock on the mantelpiece. The sound that used to just mark time now sounded like a bomb. "Wayne," I said, my voice cold and dead. "How bad is it?" I've been taking money from the store, from the accounts, to cover the payments. Not stealing, just borrowing. I was going to pay it back. But the sales, they never came back up. The owner, he's doing an audit next week." I felt my legs give out. I grabbed the back of a chair and sat down, hard. He hadn't just lied. He hadn't just betrayed me. He had ruined us. We were going to lose everything. The house, the store. He might even go to jail. "All of it," I whispered. "You burned all of it. Our entire life. You burned it to the ground just to keep your secret buried." I can fix it," he said, trying to get up, trying to sound strong, but he was just a broken man on the floor. I just need time." "Time?" I said, the rage coming back, hot and sharp. "Time is the one thing no one has. I met him, Wayne. I met David. He's a boy. He's just a sweet, innocent boy who draws trains. He is your son. And he is dying." "I know," he whispered. "Mrs. Miller told me. The operation." "And you told her you'd think about it. You told her you'd see what you could do. You were stalling, weren't you? Because you don't have the money. You were just going to let him die." "No, I didn't know what to do. And my mother," I screamed, standing up again. "My mother is in the hospital, waiting for a surgery you told me we couldn't afford. You are letting them both die, Wayne, an old woman who raised you and an innocent boy you created, all because of you. Your cowardice, your lies." I was standing over him now. "And I know about Mrs. Miller, too. I know she's sick. I know she has cancer, just like Diane." He looked up at me, and in his eyes I saw it. I saw the most evil thing I have ever seen in my life. It was just a flicker, just a shadow, but I saw it. It was relief. He was thinking. He was thinking that if Mrs. Miller died, the calls would stop. The arrangement would be over. The blackmail would end. If he just stalled. If he just waited long enough, both of them would die. David, Mrs. Miller, and he. He would be free. The problem would just go away. The sickness I felt was so profound, I actually took a step back from him. "You monster," I breathed. "You're relieved. You're hoping they die." "No," he yelled, scrambling to his feet. "Gloria, that's not true. I'm not that man." "You are exactly that man," I shouted back. "You are a man who would let a child die to save himself. You are a man who has bankrupted his own family, stolen from his children, lied to his wife for 12 years, all to protect your own skin. You are not the man I married. That man never even existed." We were standing in the middle of the room, breathing hard, the truth of 12 years, the truth of our entire life, finally laid bare. It was ugly, it was rotten, and it was all out. "No," I said, my voice suddenly calm again. That same cold, hard certainty from the bus ride. "You're not going to wait, you're not going to stall. You are not going to let them die. Gloria, I told you, I don't have the money. There is nothing. I don't care about the money. We are going to find it. We will sell this house. We will sell the car. I will beg for it if I have to. But first, you are going to finally be a man. You are going to be a father." "What? What do you mean?" "I mean, you are coming with me. Right now. We are getting in the car. We are going to that care home. You are going to stand in front of that poor dying woman, Mrs. Miller, and you are going to tell her the truth. And then, Wayne, you are going to walk down that hallway. You are going to go into that room, and you are going to meet your son. You are going to look your child in the eye. for the first time in his life. And you are going to tell him who you are. No, he whispered, his face white with terror. Gloria, no, I can't. Not tonight. I can't. You can, I said, grabbing my coat, and you will. You will go there, and you will look at him, and you will see what you abandoned, and then you will tell him. You will tell him why you are letting him die. I am not, he roared, his terror turning to rage. You can't make me. I can, I screamed back, the sound echoing in the quiet, perfect house. You will not hide anymore, Wayne. You will not let them die. You will... Mom? The sound was small, a child's voice. It cut through the anger like a knife. We both froze. We turned toward the hallway. My oldest son, Robert, was standing there. He was just in his pajamas, his face pale, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. He had clearly been woken by our screaming. He looked at me and then at his father, a crumpled, defeated man by the wall. Mom? Dad? Robert asked, his voice shaking. What's wrong? Why are you yelling about someone dying? Who is David? Robert's small, shaking voice hung in the air, a spotlight of pure innocence on the dark, ugly secret we had just unearthed. My rage, Wayne's terror, it all froze. We just stared at our son, who was looking back and forth between his broken father on the floor and his mother, who he had never, ever heard scream before. Wayne made a low, sobbing sound and buried his face in his hands. He was completely broken. The fight was gone. The lies were gone. There was nothing left but the raw, pathetic shame. I took a deep breath, the cold, hard resolve in my chest suddenly having to make room for a mother's instinct. I walked over to Robert, kneeling in front of him, putting my hands on his small, pajama-clad shoulders. Honey, I said, my voice shaking now, the adrenaline fading. You need to go back to bed. But who is David? He insisted, his eyes filling with tears. You said he's dying. Did Dad do something? I looked over my shoulder at Wayne, a crumpled heap of a man against our living room wall. Yes, I said, my voice quiet but firm, making sure Wayne could hear me. Yes, honey. Dad did do something, a long, long time ago. Before you were born. I had to make a choice. Right there. Do I lie to my son, just as Wayne had lied to me? Do I protect him from this, and in doing so, become a part of the secret keeping that had rotted our family from the inside out? No. The lies stopped tonight. I guided Robert to the sofa and sat him down, pulling a blanket around him. Robert, I said, sitting next to him, what I'm about to tell you is very hard, and it's an adult problem. But you are old enough to know a part of the truth. I took a deep breath. Your father. Before he and I were married, he had a relationship with a young woman. Her name was Diane, and they had a son, a baby boy. His name is David. Robert's eyes were wide, trying to understand. So, I have a brother? The word hit me just as hard as it had hit me in that care home. Yes, I whispered. You have a brother. You and Susan and Mark. You all have an older brother. Where is he? Why have we never met him? And here was the hardest part. I looked at Wayne. He was watching us, his face streaked with tears, his expression one of pure agony. He was waiting for me to deliver the blow. Because, I said, choosing my words with extreme care, your father was young, and he was scared, and he made a terrible, terrible mistake. He left them, Robert. He abandoned them, and he never told us. He kept David a secret for your entire life. Robert looked from me to his father. I could see the confusion in his face, the first flicker of a disappointment that would change how he saw his father forever. David is sick, I continued. He was born with a weak heart, and now he needs an operation, a very expensive one, to save his life. And we don't have the money to help him. Because Dad lost it all? Robert whispered, showing he had heard more of our fight than I realized. I nodded. Yes, your father. He made a lot of mistakes, trying to keep this secret. And now David is going to pay the price, and so is his grandmother, Mrs. Miller, who is also very sick. Robert was quiet for a long time, just absorbing it. So, he's really my brother, he said, not as a question, but as a fact he was settling in his mind. Yes, I said, and he's dying. Yes, if we don't do something. He looked at me, his young face suddenly looking old. Then we have to do something. We have to. He's family. The simple, profound truth of what he said struck me to the core. Through all the lies, all the betrayal, this one simple fact remained. He was family. I stood up. You're right, we are. I walked over to Wayne. He flinched as I approached. Get up, I said. He looked at me, his eyes empty. Gloria, I can't. I can't fix this. It's too late. I've ruined everything. You have, I said, my voice like steel. You have ruined us, but I am not going to let you ruin him too. You are going to get up. You are going to put on your coat, and you are coming with me. We are going to see him, and we are going to tell Mrs. Miller that we will find a way. But how? I told you, there is nothing left. I don't care, I said. We will sell this house. We will sell the car. I will get a job. You will get a job, a different job. You will not let that boy die. I will not let you. I turned to Robert. Honey, I have to go out. I have to go. See David. I need you to be the man of the house for a little while. Go back to bed. I will be home soon. Robert shook his head. I want to come, he said. No, sweetie, it's not a place for... I want to meet my brother, he said, his voice quiet but as firm as mine. If he's sick, I want to meet him. Please, Mom. I looked at him, my brave, good son. And then I looked at my husband, the coward. Maybe this was what had to happen. Maybe Wayne needed to see it. Not just his abandoned son, but his real son, his good son, meeting the one he had thrown away. All right, I said. Go get your coat and shoes. But you must be very quiet and very brave. Can you do that? He nodded, his face serious, and ran to his room. I looked at Wayne. He has more courage in his little finger than you have in your entire body. Now get up. Slowly, like an old man, Wayne pulled himself to his feet. He didn't speak. He just moved like an automaton, pulling on his coat. The drive to St. Jude's was the longest of my life. The three of us were in the car, wrapped in a suffocating silence. Wayne drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I sat in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead. And Robert sat in the back, quiet, his small face illuminated by the passing streetlights. When we pulled up to the care home, it was dark, almost midnight. A single light was on at the reception desk. Wayne, I said before we got out, you are going to do this. You are going to tell Mrs. Miller the truth, that you have nothing, and then you are going to promise her that we will save him, that I will save him. Do you understand me? He just nodded, his face pale and sick. We walked inside. Robert held my hand tightly. The night nurse looked up, shocked to see a family, especially a child at this hour. I'm so sorry, I said, my voice hurried. We are here for Mrs. Miller. In room 312. It's an emergency, a family emergency. The nurse, seeing the look on my face and the shell-shocked man and the pale boy beside me, just nodded and waved us through. We walked down that same hallway, but this time it felt different. It felt like a funeral march. I stopped at the door to room 312. It was closed. I knocked, very gently. A moment later, I heard Mrs. Miller's frail voice. "Yes? Who is it?" I pushed the door open. She was in her bed, a small lamp on beside her. When she saw me, she sat up. "Gloria? What is it? Is it David?" And then she saw Wayne hovering behind me in the doorway and Robert clutching my hand. Her face hardened. "You," she said, her voice like gravel. "You, the father." Wayne couldn't move. He was frozen, a statue of shame. "Mrs. Miller," I said, stepping into the room, "this is my husband, Wayne, and this is our son, Robert." She looked at Robert, and her expression softened for just a second. He looks like—" "I know," I said. We have come to talk to you. Wayne has something he has to tell you." I physically pulled Wayne into the room. He stumbled, almost falling. He stood at the foot of her bed, his head bowed, unable to look at her. "Speak," I commanded him. I, he stammered. He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "Tell her," I said. He took a ragged breath. "Mrs. Miller," he whispered, finally looking at her. "The operation, the money for David, I don't have it." Her face, which had been so hopeful when I left, crumpled. What do you mean?" "I mean, I have nothing," he choked out. "It's all gone. I'm in debt. I'm ruined. I've been lying to Gloria, lying to my work, lying to everyone. There is no money. I can't pay for it." Mrs. Miller just stared at him. And then she did something I did not expect. She started to laugh. It was a terrible, dry, hacking laugh that turned into a cough. "So," she finally said, wiping her mouth, "it's over. After all this time, all these years of your precious arrangement, you were just a fraud, a cheap, empty fraud. I'm sorry," he wept. "Sorry?" she spat. "Sorry won't save him. Sorry won't keep him safe when I'm gone. Do you know what you've done? You've waited. You've waited just long enough for it to be too late. You've killed him, just as surely as if you'd... She couldn't finish. She fell back against the pillows, exhausted. "No," I said, stepping forward. "He won't. I won't let him. Mrs. Miller, I give you my word. I give you my promise. I will find the money. I will sell my house. I will sell everything I own. I will work my fingers to the bone. Your grandson, my son-in-law, he will have this operation, and he will have a home. When you are gone, he will come to live with us. With me, with Robert and Susan and Mark. He will be my son. I promise you." Mrs. Miller looked at me, her eyes searching my face, and I saw a flicker of hope. You would do that? After what? After he is not my husband," I said, looking at Wayne with cold clarity. "My husband, the man I thought I knew, is gone. This is just a man who shares my house. But David is innocent, and my children, Robert, they are innocent. I will do it for them." Robert, who had been silent this whole time, stepped forward. "We will, Grandma," he said, his voice small but clear. He had called her Grandma. "We'll take care of him. I want to meet him. Can I meet David?" Mrs. Miller's face broke, and real tears streamed down her cheeks. "Oh, child," she whispered, "my sweet, brave child. Yes, you can. He's in his room, just down the hall, 315. He's probably asleep, but..." "Go," I said to Wayne. He looked at me, his eyes wide with a new terror. "What?" "Go. Go to room 315. Your son is in there. You are going to go in that room, and you are going to look at your child. Robert and I will wait here, with Mrs. Miller." "No. Gloria. I can't. Not alone. You have been alone with this for 17 years. You can be alone with it for 5 more minutes. Go, now." He looked at me, at Mrs. Miller, at Robert. He was trapped. There was no escape. Slowly, his feet shuffling, he turned and walked out of the room. I watched him go, a ghost walking to meet a ghost. As soon as he left, Robert went to Mrs. Miller's bed. "Is David nice?" he asked. "Oh, yes, dear," she said, taking his small hand. "He is the kindest, gentlest boy you will ever meet. He will be so happy to have a brother." We sat in silence. 1 minute, 2, 3. I was counting every second, imagining what was happening in that room. Was Wayne standing over his bed? Was David awake? What was he seeing? What was he feeling? Then, we heard it. It was a sound I had never heard before, and will never hear again. It was not a cry or a yell. It was a howl, a sound of such profound animal grief that it chilled me to my bones. It was Wayne. Robert jumped, startled, and I put my arm around him. The howl was followed by sobs, deep, racking sobs that echoed in the quiet hallway. Mrs. Miller closed her eyes. He has seen him," she whispered. He finally sees." The days and weeks that followed were a blur. They were the hardest of my life. I went to my mother. I told her the truth. I told her I couldn't pay for her operation. Not yet. I told her I had another person to save first. And that wonderful, selfless woman, lying in her hospital bed, took my hand and said, "Gloria, you save that boy. He's a child. My time can wait. You save your son." And I did. I was a woman on a mission. I put our house on the market the very next day. I sold our car. I sold my own mother's jewelry, the pieces she had given me. Wayne, he was a shadow. He did whatever I told him. He confessed to his boss. He lost his job, of course, but his boss, seeing the situation, seeing the desperate need for the medical funds, agreed not to press charges on the condition that he pay back every cent. Wayne found a job, a hard, physical job, loading trucks at a warehouse. He left before dawn and came home after dark, exhausted and dirty, but he never complained. He just gave me his paycheck, every penny, every week. I took my sewing skills and I turned them into a business. I sewed all day and all night. We found the money. It took us 2 months, but we scraped together every last cent for David's operation. The surgery was a success. We all stood in the hospital, me, Wayne, Robert, Susan, and Mark, when he woke up. And he smiled. Mrs. Miller held on long enough to see it. She held on long enough to see her grandson, his health improving, come to our new, tiny, rented apartment for a Sunday dinner. She saw him sitting at a table surrounded by his new brothers and his sister, laughing as they showed him their drawings. She saw Wayne, a quieter, broken, but somehow more present man, sit next to him and help him cut his food. She passed away 2 days later, in her sleep. And David came to live with us. That was a lifetime ago. I am 85 years old now. My mother, we saved her too. She got her operation, and she lived another 15 wonderful years. My children grew up. Our tiny apartment was loud and chaotic and poor, but it was full. Robert became an architect, Susan, a musician, Mark, a writer, and David, my sweet David. He lived, he thrived. He never stopped drawing his trains. He lived with me until I was 70, in a small studio we built for him in the backyard, where he could draw in peace. He passed away 15 years ago, but he was happy. He was loved. And Wayne? My relationship with him was never the same. You cannot break something that badly and have it be perfect again. The trust was gone, but we built something new. In the rubble of all those lies, we built a partnership, a quiet, honest understanding. He worked his entire life to pay back what he had taken. He never stopped trying to atone. He was a good father to David. He was a good father to all our children in the end. He passed away 5 years ago, and I was holding his hand. I had forgiven him. That telephone, that dreadful black telephone. It taught me a terrible lesson, that secrets are a poison. They don't just hurt the person you're lying to. They destroy you too from the inside out. Answering that call was the most terrifying thing I have ever done. But it was also the most important. It broke my life, but it set me free. It saved us all. Thank you for listening to me today, for allowing me to share with you this intimate chapter of my life. If my story has touched you, please don't hesitate to leave a like on this video and subscribe to this channel to discover other testimonies like mine. And please share it, because who knows? Maybe someone going through a similar trial right now will find the courage to keep searching, to hope, to believe in the impossible. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from today? Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to me.